You find yourself floating gently in a small birch bark canoe on the pristine waters of what will one day be called New York Harbor. The year is 1524, and you are Giovanni da Verrazzano, drifting peacefully through waters so clear you can see smooth pebbles resting on the sandy bottom below. The morning mist rises like silk curtains from the surface of the water, and you breathe deeply, inhaling the sweet scent of wild honeysuckle that grows in thick tangles along the shoreline. Your canoe moves slowly, almost lazily, guided by gentle currents toward the mouth of a great river. You close your eyes and listen to the soft lapping of water against the curved sides of your vessel. The sound is rhythmic, hypnotic, like a lullaby sung by the earth itself. When you open your eyes again, you see before you an island covered in rolling hills and dense forests of towering oak trees, their leaves rustling softly in the warm breeze. This is Mannahatta, the island of many hills, as the Lenape people call it. You paddle closer, and the scent of wood smoke drifts toward you, mingling with the fragrance of wild roses and the earthy smell of rich soil, warmed by the morning sun. Along the shoreline, you see the first dwellings, the first architecture of what will one day become the greatest city in the world. But now, in this peaceful moment, there are only simple structures, built with loving hands from the gifts of the forest. You glide past a small Lenape village, where dome-shaped wigwams cluster together like sleeping animals, their curved forms blending perfectly with the natural landscape. Each wigwam is covered with sheets of birch bark, overlapping like fish scales, creating walls that breathe with the rhythm of the seasons. The smoke from cooking fires rises straight up in thin grey columns toward the pale blue sky. You can smell corn porridge sweetened with maple syrup and the rich aroma of wild turkey roasting slowly over glowing coals. A child runs along the water's edge, her bare feet splashing in the shallow waves, and she waves to you with a smile as bright as the morning sun. Her long dark hair flows behind her like a banner in the breeze, and you wave back, feeling a deep sense of peace and belonging. Your canoe drifts deeper into the protected waters of the harbour, and you notice how the Lenape have shaped their world with gentle wisdom. There are no sharp angles, no harsh lines cutting through the landscape. Instead, everything flows like water itself, following the natural curves of hill and shore. You see fish traps made of woven reeds, placed carefully in the tidal streams, designed to work with the rhythm of the rising and falling waters. The traps are beautiful, almost like sculpture, their graceful forms barely disturbing the flow of the current. Near the village, you notice raised gardens where corn, beans, and squash grow together in perfect harmony. The Lenape call these the Three Sisters, and they plant them in small mounds that follow the contours of the land, creating a pattern as pleasing to the eye as music is to the ear. The architecture here is not about dominating the natural world, but about living in gentle partnership with wind and water, soil and stone. You see longhouses built into the slope of a hill, their low profiles almost invisible until you are very close. Each longhouse stretches like a sleeping giant, perhaps 60 feet in length and 20 feet wide, its frame made of flexible saplings bent and woven together to create a structure that can bend with winter storms without breaking. The walls are covered with overlapping sheets of elm bark, stripped carefully from living trees in long, smooth pieces that fit together like a master craftsman's puzzle. The bark still holds the tree's memory of growing toward sunlight, and it seems to glow with a warm, golden light in the soft morning sun. You paddle closer to one of these longhouses, and you can see, through an open doorway, the interior spaces divided by hanging mats made of woven cattail reeds. Each family has its own section, yet all share the central hearth where a fire burns continuously through all seasons. The smoke from the fire rises naturally through an opening in the curved roof, and you watch as it disperses into the morning air like prayers offered to the sky. There is no chimney, no brick or stone, just a simple opening that allows the smoke to find its own way to freedom. Inside the longhouse, you glimpse sleeping platforms built along the walls, raised just high enough off the earth floor to stay dry and warm. The platforms are covered with soft furs and woven mats, creating beds that cradle the body like a mother's arms. Storage baskets hang from the curved ceiling, woven so tightly they can hold water or the finest cornmeal. Each basket is a work of art, decorated with natural dyes made from berries and bark, creating patterns that tell stories of seasons and ceremonies, of hunts and harvests. You let your canoe drift in the gentle current, and you notice how every structure in this landscape serves multiple purposes. A fish weir is also a bridge. A drying rack for corn and fish also provides a windbreak for the cooking fires. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is without beauty. Even the simplest tools are carved with loving attention to both function and form. A wooden bowl for eating has a rim as smooth as silk and a shape that fits perfectly in cupped hands. The pathways between the dwellings follow deer trails that have existed for thousands of years. They wind through the forest, following the easiest route, up hills and around marshy areas, creating a network of gentle curves that never fight against the land's natural inclinations. You see women gathering reeds at the water's edge, their movements slow and rhythmic as they select only the longest and strongest stems for their basket weaving. They work in comfortable silence, occasionally sharing a quiet word or a soft laugh that carries across the water like the call of a songbird. Children play in the shallows, building tiny villages from stones and shells and pieces of driftwood. Their architecture mimicking the larger world around them, but scaled to fit in small hands. An elderly man sits in the shade of a great oak tree, carving a canoe paddle from a piece of white ash wood. His knife moves with practiced skill, creating smooth curves that will cut through water with barely a sound. Each stroke of his blade is deliberate, meditative, like a prayer carved in wood. As your own canoe continues its lazy journey, you feel the sun growing warmer on your shoulders. The light filters through the leaves of overhanging branches, creating patterns of gold and shadow that dance on the water's surface. You pass a place where fresh water bubbles up from underground springs, creating a pool so clear you can see tiny fish darting between smooth stones on the bottom. Native watercress grows in the shallows, its leaves a bright green that seems to glow with inner light. Near the spring, you see a sweat lodge, a small dome built from bent saplings and covered with thick hides and layers of bark. Steam rises gently from cracks around the entrance, and you can almost feel the healing warmth of the stones heated in the sacred fire, then carried inside to create cleansing steam. The sweat lodge sits at the edge of a grove of white birch trees, their papery bark peeling in long strips that flutter like prayer flags in the gentle breeze. The birch grove feels like a natural cathedral with columns of silver and a green canopy that filters sunlight into soft, dancing beams. You let your eyes drift closed for a moment and listen to the symphony of this place. Water laps against stone and wood. Leaves whisper their ancient secrets to the wind. Somewhere, a woodpecker taps out a steady rhythm on hollow wood. When you open your eyes, you see that your canoe has drifted into a quiet cove, protected on 3 sides by low hills, covered in forest. Here, the water is perfectly still, like a mirror, reflecting the sky and the white clouds that drift like sleeping sheep across the blue. On the shore of this peaceful cove, you see what might be the very first permanent structure ever built on Manhattan Island. It is a small storage house built by Dutch traders who have begun to visit regularly to exchange metal tools and cloth for beaver pelts and other furs. The Dutch have built their little storehouse using techniques learned in the Low Countries of Holland, where they have for centuries struggled against the sea itself. The foundation is made of stones carefully fitted together without mortar, allowing water to drain away naturally. The walls are built of thick oak planks cut from trees that grew right here on the island. The planks are fitted together with wooden pegs instead of nails, creating joints that can expand and contract with changes in weather, without splitting or breaking apart. The roof is covered with split cedar shingles, each one cut by hand and overlapped like the feathers of a great bird. The shingles will turn silver grey in the weather and last for many decades, protecting the goods stored inside. You notice how even this European structure seems to fit naturally into the landscape. The Dutch, who know what it means to live in harmony with water, have placed their building just far enough from the shore to stay dry. A wooden pier extends into the cove, built with the same careful craftsmanship as the storehouse. The planks are wide and thick, designed to support the weight of heavy cargo. Yet the pier is low and gentle, disturbing the water as little as possible. You guide your canoe to the pier and tie it with a rope made of twisted basswood fibers. The rope is soft in your hands and smells of the tree bark from which it was made. You step onto the pier and feel the solid wood beneath your feet, still warm from the afternoon sun. Walking slowly toward the storehouse, you notice every detail of its construction. The door is made of oak planks held together with hand-forged iron hinges that gleam like silver in the sunlight. The hinges were made by a blacksmith in Amsterdam and carried across the ocean in the hull of a sailing ship. The windows are small but perfectly proportioned, with diamond-shaped panes of glass set in lead frames. The glass is slightly wavy and full of tiny bubbles because it was made by hand in a furnace heated with wood from German forests. Through the windows, you can see the interior of the storehouse, dimly lit by the filtered sunlight. Wooden shelves line the walls, filled with iron tools and copper pots, woolen blankets, and glass beads in colours like jewels, waiting to be traded for furs. The floor inside the storehouse is made of wide pine planks, worn smooth by the feet of Dutch traders and Lenape hunters who meet here in friendship to exchange the products of their different worlds. In one corner of the storehouse, you see a small fireplace built of stones, gathered from the shore of the cove. The fireplace provides warmth on cold nights and a place to cook simple meals of corn porridge and dried fish. Above the fireplace, a wooden mantel has been carved with simple decorations, tulips and windmills that remind back the Dutch traders of their homeland across the vast ocean. The carving is painted in soft colours, blue and yellow, and red, like flowers in a distant garden. You walk back to the water's edge and sit on a fallen log that has been worn smooth by wind and weather. The log is warm beneath you, and you can feel the gentle pulse of the island beneath your feet, like a great heart beating slowly and steadily. As the sun begins to sink toward the western hills, the light becomes softer, more golden. The water in the cove turns the colour of amber honey, and small fish rise to the surface, creating gentle ripples that spread in perfect circles toward the shore. A great blue heron lands at the edge of the cove, moving with the grace of a dancer. The heron stands perfectly still, watching the water with infinite patience, waiting for the right moment to strike at a passing fish. You watch the heron and feel your own breathing slowing, deepening, matching the rhythm of the waves that wash gently against the shore. The air is sweet with the scent of wild flowers and the green smell of growing things. As darkness begins to gather in the shadows beneath the trees, you see the first cooking fires being lit in the Lenape village. The fires glow like stars come down to earth, and you can hear the soft murmur of voices carrying across the still water. Somewhere, a flute begins to play a melody as old as the hills themselves, and the notes drift like smoke through the evening air. The music speaks of seasons changing, of rivers flowing toward the sea, of all the generations who have walked these shores before you. You feel your eyelids growing heavy, and the gentle sounds of this peaceful place begin to fade into the soft whisper of the wind in the reeds. The last thing you remember is the warm feeling of belonging to this place, where the first architecture was built, not to conquer, but to shelter, not to dominate, but to dwell in harmony. You feel your eyelids growing heavy, and the gentle sounds of this peaceful place begin to fade into the soft whisper of the wind in the reeds. The last thing you remember is the warm feeling of belonging to this place, where the first architecture was built, not to conquer, but to shelter, not to dominate, but to dwell in harmony with the eternal rhythms of water and wind and earth. Your breathing grows deeper, slower, and you drift like your canoe on.
You wake to the soft sound of wooden shoes clicking gently on cobblestones. The morning mist drifts like silk scarves through the narrow streets of New Amsterdam, and you find yourself walking slowly through a town that seems built from dreams of the old country, transplanted to new soil. The year is 1660, and you are a master carpenter from Leiden, come to this island to build a new life with your own hands. Your leather tool satchel hangs comfortably from your shoulder, and you can feel the familiar weight of your chisels and planes and the small handsaw that belonged to your father and his father before him. The morning air is sweet with the scent of fresh bread baking in brick ovens and the flowers that Dutch housewives have planted in wooden boxes outside their windows. Tulips and daffodils nod gently in window boxes, bringing touches of Holland to this new American. You walk at a leisurely pace down the Herengracht, the main canal that the Dutch have dug through the heart of their settlement. The canal runs straight from the harbour to the freshwater pond they call the Collect, and small boats drift lazily along its length, carrying supplies and people from place to place. On either side of the canal, Dutch houses stand in neat rows like well-behaved children, each one slightly different from its neighbours, yet all sharing the same essential character. These are burgher houses built by prosperous merchants and craftsmen who have brought their architectural traditions across the Atlantic in the holds of sailing ships. Each house rises 3 stories above a high basement built of stone, quarried right here on the island. The stone is a warm grey colour, flecked with tiny crystals that catch the morning light and make the foundations seem to sparkle like jewels set in the earth. The walls above the stone are built of brick, but not the red brick you might expect. These bricks are yellow, the colour of ripe wheat, made from clay dug from Long Island and fired in kilns that burn with driftwood, gathered from the beaches. You pause before one house that particularly catches your eye. It belongs to Peter van Cortlandt, a successful grain merchant who has prospered in the fur trade. The house is 4 stories tall, each floor slightly smaller than the one below. creating a gentle, stepped profile that seems to reach toward heaven like a prayer made in brick. The facade of Van Cortland's house is decorated with patterns made from darker bricks, creating horizontal stripes and simple geometric designs. These patterns serve no purpose beyond beauty, but they speak of a people who believe that even the most practical structures deserve to be adorned with care and love. The windows are large, much larger than was common in Europe, because glass is more easily obtained here, and the Dutch have learned to love the clear American light. Each window is divided into small panes by lead strips called cames that create delicate patterns like spider webs made of light. The front door is painted a deep blue, the colour of Delft pottery, and it opens directly onto the street in the Dutch fashion. Above the door, a small carved stone tablet bears the date 1658 and the initials P.V. This house, as Van Cortlandt's, forever. You knock gently on the blue door and wait, listening to the sounds of the house awakening. Inside, you can hear the soft shuffle of felt slippers on wooden floors and the gentle murmur of morning prayers being said in Dutch by the family gathered around the kitchen table. The door opens and Mevrouw Van Cortlandt greets you with a warm smile. She is a small woman with kind eyes, and her grey hair is covered by a white cap made of fine linen that she embroidered herself with tiny flowers in blue silk thread. She leads you through the front hall, past a large casse or wardrobe made of oak and decorated with painted panels, showing scenes of Dutch gardens full of tulips and roses. The casse reaches to the ceiling, and its presence makes the hall feel cozy and protected, like being inside a gentle giant's embrace. The floors throughout the house are made of wide pine planks, scrubbed to a pale honey colour and covered with sand. Scattered in decorative patterns, the sand not only protects the wood, but creates beautiful designs that change with each sweeping. Mevrouw van Cortlandt leads you to the kitchen at the back of the house, where her husband sits at a long wooden table, drinking coffee from a Delft blue cup. The kitchen is the heart of the Dutch home, and this one is filled with warm light streaming through windows that face the back garden. The fireplace in the kitchen is enormous, wide enough for several people to sit inside on cold winter days. The hearth is built of Dutch brick laid in patterns that please the eye, and above it hangs a wooden mantle carved with the date of the house's construction and a Bible verse. Copper pots and pewter plates gleam on wooden shelves, and bundles of dried herbs hang from the ceiling beams, filling the air with the scents of summer preserved for winter use. Sage and thyme, rosemary and lavender create a natural perfume that makes the kitchen feel like a garden brought indoors. Van Cortlandt explains why he has called for you. He wants to add a new room to his house, a study where he can peep his books and conduct his business. The room must be built with care to match the existing structure and to create a space that feels both practical and beautiful. Together, you walk through the house, examining the existing construction. The interior walls are made of oak posts and beams, with the spaces between them filled with a mixture of clay and chopped straw called nogging. The walls are then covered with plaster made from lime and sand, creating smooth, white surfaces that reflect the light from the windows. The ceilings in each room are supported by heavy oak beams, left exposed and painted with linseed oil to protect them from insects and decay. The beams are beautiful in their simplicity, their straight lines and honest strength, speaking of forests and craftsmanship and the desire to build something that will last for generations. You examine the joints where the beams meet the walls and admire the precision of the original carpenter's work. Each joint is cut by hand with tools much like the ones you carry and fitted together without nails, using only wooden pegs and the carpenter's skill in shaping wood. Van Cortlandt shows you the space where the new room will be built, an area behind the kitchen that currently serves as a storage shed. The existing walls are solid and the foundation is sound, but the space will need a new roof and careful integration with the main house. You spend the morning measuring and planning, sketching rough drawings on a piece of paper made from rags in a mill in Brooklyn. The paper is thick and slightly rough textured, and it holds the marks of your charcoal pencil with satisfying permanence. As you work, you can hear the sounds of the town coming to life around you. Church bells ring the hour from the Dutch Reformed church on the square. Their bronze voices carrying across the rooftops like prayers made audible. The bells were cast in Amsterdam and brought across the ocean in the same ships that carried the colonists to their new home. Through the windows, you can see other Dutch houses, each one different yet harmonious with its neighbours. Some houses have stepped gables like staircases for giants leading to the sky. Others have curved gables that flow like frozen water, creating profiles that are both elegant and practical. Many houses have small dormer windows poking out from their roofs like curious eyes looking down on the street below. These dormers not only provide light for the upper floors, but they give each house a personality, a sense of being inhabited by people who care about beauty as well as function. You notice how the Dutch builders have adapted their traditional designs to suit the American climate. Roofs are steeper here to shed the heavy snows of New World winters, and many houses have deep porches called stopes where families can sit in the shade during hot summer evenings. The stopes are built of the same yellow brick as the houses, and they often extend right up to the property line, creating semi-public spaces where neighbours can gather to talk and children can play safely, away from the traffic of horses and carts in the street. As noon approaches, Mevrouw van Cortlandt invites you to share the family meal. The dining room is located on the first floor, above the kitchen, and it is reached by a narrow staircase with steps worn smooth by generations of daily use. The dining room contains a large table made of oak, polished to a deep glow that reflects the light from the windows like still water. The table is surrounded by chairs with rush seats and carved backs that show tulips and other flowers beloved by the Dutch. On the table, Mevrouw van Cortlandt has set out pewter plates and cups, each one made by hand by a pewterer who lives just 3 streets away. The pewter gleams with a soft silver light and feels pleasantly cool beneath your fingers. The meal consists of bread, baked this morning in the communal oven behind the church, cheese aged in cool cellars dug into the hillside near the freshwater pond, and meat from cattle that graze in the meadows of Brooklyn just across the East River. As you eat, Van Cortlandt tells you about the growth of New Amsterdam and his hopes for the future. More ships arrive each month from Holland, bringing new settlers and supplies, and the town is expanding beyond its original boundaries. He shows you, through the window, the construction of a new church being built to replace the smaller wooden structure that has served the community since its founding. The new church will be built of stone in the Gothic style, with pointed windows and a bell tower that will be visible from ships entering the harbour. The church is being built by master masons brought from Europe, specifically for this project. They work with stone imported from the quarries of Holland, because the local stone is not suitable for the fine carved details required for Gothic architecture. You can see the masons at work, even from Van Cortlandt's dining room window. They move with the slow, deliberate pace of men who know that their work will outlast their own lives. Each stone is carefully shaped and fitted, and the walls rise imperceptibly day by day, like a prayer being offered, one word at a time. After the meal, you and Van Cortlandt walk through the town to visit the sawmill, where you will obtain the lumber for his new room. The mill is located on a small stream that flows into the harbour, and it is powered by a wooden water wheel that turns slowly and steadily, like the heartbeat of the earth. The mill itself is built of heavy timber framing, with walls of vertical wood siding, weathered to a silver-grey colour. The roof is covered with wooden shingles that curl and split with age, but still keep out the rain and snow. Inside the mill, the air is filled with the sweet scent of fresh cut wood and the gentle sound of the saw blade moving back and forth through the logs. Sawdust floats in the golden shafts of light that slant through the windows, creating an atmosphere that feels almost sacred. The miller is a man from Friesland whose hands are permanently stained with pine resin and oak tannins. He shows you planks of different woods, native to the island, oak and maple, pine and cherry, each with its own character and grain and colour. You select oak planks for the structural elements of Van Cortlandt's new room, and pine boards for the interior walls. The wood is air-dried, seasoned slowly, in stacks that allow the air to circulate freely, removing the moisture that would cause warping and splitting in the finished construction. As you and Van Cortlandt walk back through the town, you notice other building projects in various stages of completion. A new room. Warehouse is being built near the harbour. Its thick walls designed to protect valuable goods from fire and theft. The warehouse is built of brick, laid in Flemish bond, with alternating headers and stretchers, creating a pattern that is both strong and beautiful. The corners are reinforced with quoins made of dressed stone that add structural strength and visual interest. Near the warehouse, a cooper is building a new workshop where he will make barrels for storing grain and other commodities. The workshop is a simple wooden structure, but it is carefully designed with large doors that can be thrown open in good weather and windows positioned to provide the best light for detailed work. You pass a blacksmith's forge where the air shimmers with heat and the sound of hammer on anvil rings out in steady rhythm. The forge is built of stone and brick, with a chimney tall enough to carry the smoke high above the surrounding buildings. The blacksmith is making hinges and latches for the doors and windows of new houses, and he works with intense concentration, heating and shaping iron into forms that are both functional and graceful. Each hinge is a work of art, decorated with simple but elegant curves and flourishes. As the afternoon grows later, you and Van Cortlandt return to his house to finalize the plans for his new room. You sit in his garden under an apple tree that he planted when he first came to New Amsterdam, now heavy with fruit that perfumes the air with sweetness. The garden is laid out in the Dutch style, with geometric beds separated by gravel paths and bordered with low hedges of boxwood. Vegetables and flowers grow together in pleasing combinations. Cabbages next to marigolds, onions beside roses. In the center of the garden, A small fountain bubbles gently, fed by a spring that Van Cortlandt discovered when he first dug the foundation for his house. The fountain is built of the same yellow brick as the house, and it creates a peaceful sound that masks the noise of the street beyond. You spread your drawings on a wooden table that Van Cortlandt has placed under the apple tree, and together you refine the plans for the new room. It will have 2 windows facing south to capture the winter sun, and built-in bookcases along one wall to hold Van Cortlandt's growing collection of books. The bookcases will be made of cherry wood with adjustable shelves and glass doors to protect the books from dust and moisture. Each door will be fitted with hand-blown glass panes set in delicate wooden muntins that divide the glass into pleasing proportions. The room will be heated by a small fireplace built into the existing chimney of the main house. The fireplace will be lined with Dutch ceramic tiles imported from Delft, each tile painted with blue designs showing windmills and sailing ships and other scenes from the old country. As evening approaches, the light in the garden becomes softer, more golden. Shadows lengthen across the gravel paths, and the air grows cool enough for Mevrouw van Cortlandt to bring out woolen shawls for herself and her husband. The sounds of the town begin to change as day workers return home and families gather for evening meals. Cooking fires are lit in kitchen hearths, and the smell of wood smoke mingles with the scents of roasting meat and baking bread. Church bells ring the evening call to prayer, and you can see people walking slowly toward the church, their faces peaceful in the gathering twilight. The bells seem to sanctify the end of the workday and the beginning of the quiet hours of night. You gather your tools and drawings and prepare to return to your own lodgings in a small house near the waterfront, where you rent a room from a widow who makes her living by taking in craftsmen and sailors who need temporary shelter. As you walk through the quiet streets of New Amsterdam, you feel a deep satisfaction in the work you will begin tomorrow. The new room will be built with the same care and attention that went into the original house, using techniques passed down through generations of Dutch craftsmen. You pass the night watchman making his rounds, carrying a lantern that casts dancing shadows on the brick walls of the houses. He calls out the hour in Dutch, his voice echoing softly between the buildings, a comforting reminder that the town sleeps safely under his protection. The canal reflects the light of the stars and a few late lamps burning in upper windows. The water moves slowly, almost imperceptibly, toward the harbour, carrying with it the day's small burdens and worries out to sea, where they dissolve in the vast darkness. You reach your lodgings and climb the narrow stairs to your room under the eaves. The room is small but comfortable, with a window that looks out over the harbour, where ships from Holland rest at anchor, their masts swaying gently with the tide. Your bed is covered with a quilt made by your landlady's own hands, pieced together from scraps of cloth in patterns that remind you of the tulip fields of your homeland. The quilt smells faintly of lavender and the clean salt air that blows across the harbour. As you prepare for sleep, you can hear the gentle sounds of the town settling into night. Water laps against the wooden piers. Ropes creak on the ships. Somewhere, a cat walks across a roof, its paws making tiny sounds on the wooden shingles. You lie down on your comfortable bed and pull the lavender-scented quilt up to your chin. Through your window, you can see the lights of New Amsterdam twinkling like earthbound stars, each one representing a family safe in their Dutch-built home. The architecture of this peaceful town seems to embrace you, even here in your simple rented room. Every building, every street, every carefully laid brick speaks of people's desire to create beauty and shelter and community in this new land. Your breathing grows slower and deeper as you think about tomorrow's work. The satisfaction of shaping wood with your hands, the pleasure of creating something useful and beautiful that will last long after you are gone. The sounds of New Amsterdam fade into the gentle rhythm of waves against the shore and the soft whisper of wind through the rigging of the anchored ships. Your eyelids grow heavy and you drift peacefully into dreams of yellow brick and tulip gardens and the gentle architecture of home, transplanted to new and fertile ground. Sleep comes softly, like a quilt pulled up by loving hands, and you rest deeply in the embrace of a town built with care and hope, and the enduring belief that beauty and function can dwell together in perfect harmony. You find yourself awakening slowly in a sun-drenched room overlooking the harbour of what is now called New York. The year is 1720, and you are an English architect, recently arrived from London to help transform this Dutch settlement into a proper English colonial city. The morning light streams through tall sash windows, fitted with clear glass panes that sparkle like diamonds in the golden September sunshine. Your room is on the second floor of a comfortable townhouse built in the new English style that is slowly replacing the Dutch architecture of the previous century. You rise from your four-poster bed with its damask hangings in deep blue and move to the window to observe the changing cityscape. Below you, the streets are wider now, laid out in a more regular pattern than the organic curves that followed old Indian paths and Dutch canals. The transformation from New Amsterdam to New York has been gradual and gentle, like seasons changing from summer to autumn. The Dutch buildings remain solid and beautiful, but new structures rise among them. built in the Georgian style that speaks of English order and classical proportions. You dress in the comfortable clothes of a working architect: wool breeches and a linen shirt, a leather waistcoat and sturdy shoes made by a cobbler on Pearl Street. Your clothing is well made but practical, designed for a man who works with his hands and needs freedom of movement. Downstairs, in the dining room, your landlord, Mr. Thomas Willett, greets you with warm hospitality. Willett is a prosperous merchant whose grandfather came to New Amsterdam in the Dutch days, but who has adapted easily to English rule and English ways. The dining room shows the influence of both architectural traditions. The basic structure is Dutch, with heavy oak beams supporting the ceiling and a large fireplace built of Dutch brick. But English touches have been added: elegant chair rails and crown moulding painted in soft white that lightens and brightens the space. The furniture combines the best of both worlds. A Dutch casse still dominates one wall, its painted panels showing tulips and windmills, but English Windsor chairs surround the dining table, their graceful spindle backs creating lighter, more delicate lines. Breakfast consists of fresh bread, still warm from the baker's oven, butter churned yesterday, at a farm in what is now called Greenwich Village, and tea imported from China in the holds of English merchant ships that dock at the expanded harbour facilities. The tea is served in delicate porcelain cups, decorated with blue and white patterns that echo the Dutch love of ceramic art, but refined with English sensibility. The cups feel light and precious in your hands, and the tea itself is fragrant with bergamot and other exotic spices. As you sip your morning tea, Willett discusses the project that has brought you to New York. The city is commissioning a new city hall to replace the old Dutch stadthouse that has served the community for decades, but is now considered inadequate for a proper English colonial capital. The new building will be constructed in the latest Georgian style, with careful attention to classical proportions and decorative details. It will serve not only as a seat of government, but as a symbol of English civilization and culture in the New World. You spread your preliminary drawings on Willett's dining table and explain your vision for the building. It will be 3 stories high, built of red brick imported from England, with white stone trim around the windows and doorways, creating a pleasing contrast of colours and textures. The facade will be perfectly symmetrical, with a central entrance flanked by matching windows arranged in classical proportions. The entrance will be emphasized by a triangular pediment supported by columns in the Doric order, creating a sense of dignity and importance. Willett studies the drawings with interest, noting how your design incorporates the best features of English architecture, while adapting to local conditions and materials. The roof, for example, will be steeper than typical Georgian buildings to shed the heavy snows of New York winters. After breakfast, you and Willett walk through the city to examine the building site and to observe other examples of the architectural transformation taking place. The streets themselves show the influence of English urban planning, with sidewalks of flat stones and regular spacing between buildings. You pass Trinity Church, the new Anglican church that replaced the old Dutch Reformed church as the most prominent religious building in the city. Trinity Church is built in the English Gothic style, with pointed arch windows and a square bell tower that rises above the surrounding buildings like a stone finger pointing toward heaven. The church is built of local stone quarried from Manhattan Island itself. But the architectural details follow English models precisely. The windows are filled with stained glass, imported from London, depicting scenes from the Bible in rich colours that glow like jewels when lit by sunlight. Next to the church, you notice a new parsonage being built for the Anglican minister. The parsonage is a perfect example of the Georgian style adapted for residential use. It is 2.5 stories high, with dormer windows breaking through the roofline to provide light for the upper floors. The front door of the parsonage is painted a deep green, and it is surrounded by a decorative doorway with pilasters and a broken pediment that creates a sense of welcome and importance. The windows are larger than those in Dutch houses, reflecting the English love of natural light and their confidence in their ability to heat large spaces. You continue your walk down what is now called Wall Street, where the old Dutch wall once protected the settlement from Indian attacks. The wall is long gone, but the street remains wider than most others, and it has become the center of the city's commercial life. Along Wall Street, new buildings rise almost monthly, each one more ambitious than the last. You see a new bank building being constructed with a facade of dressed stone and windows arranged in perfect symmetry. The bank will serve the growing commercial needs of the city, and its architecture expresses confidence in the future of English colonial enterprise. The construction techniques used in these new buildings represent a fascinating blend of traditions. Dutch craftsmen still do much of the work, but they have adapted their skills to English architectural requirements. The result is buildings that are structurally sound in the Dutch tradition, but aesthetically pleasing in the English manner. You stop to watch a crew of bricklayers working on a new merchant's house. The bricks are laid in English bond rather than the Flemish bond preferred by Dutch builders, creating different visual patterns in the wall. The mortar is mixed with local sand, but the proportions follow English specifications. The house itself shows clear English influence in its proportions and details. It is 3 stories high, with a basement partially above ground, creating space for shops or storage at street level. The upper floors are residential, with large windows and elegant interior arrangements. You climb the front steps of the house at the invitation of the master builder, a Dutchman named Jan de Wit, who has successfully adapted his traditional skills to the new architectural requirements. De Wit shows you through the interior spaces, explaining how he has modified Dutch building techniques to create English room arrangements. The interior of the house features a central hallway with a staircase that rises in easy stages to the upper floors. This arrangement is purely English, replacing the Dutch preference for steep, narrow stairs. The windows in each room are fitted with interior shutters that can be closed for privacy or opened to allow maximum light to enter. The shutters are made of pine, painted to match the wall paneling, and they fold neatly into recesses built into the window surrounds. In the main parlour, you notice a beautiful fireplace surrounded by carved wooden mantelpiece, decorated with classical motifs, columns and pediments, and garlands of flowers and fruits. The carving is done by local craftsmen who have learned English decorative techniques, but bring to them the precision and attention to detail of their Dutch heritage. The dining room features built-in corner cupboards with glass doors to display the family's best china and silver. The cupboards are painted the same soft blue as the walls, and they seem to grow naturally from the architecture of the room, rather than being added as afterthoughts. Upstairs, the bedrooms are arranged along a central corridor, each one with its own fireplace and large windows that look out over the garden behind the house. The bedrooms are spacious and comfortable, with built-in wardrobes and window seats that provide storage and pleasant places to sit and read. The master bedroom has a small dressing room attached, where the lady of the house can prepare her elaborate toilette in privacy. The dressing room is fitted with a built-in dressing table and mirror, surrounded by candle sconces that provide the light necessary for detailed personal care. From the upper windows, you can see the garden behind the house, laid out in the English manner, with curved paths and informal plantings of flowers and shrubs. This represents a significant departure from the formal geometric gardens preferred by the Dutch, and shows the influence of English landscape design. You return to the street level and continue your walk through the changing city. Everywhere you see evidence of the peaceful transformation taking place. Old Dutch houses are being modified with English details. New buildings rise in the Georgian style, and the overall character of the city is becoming more refined. more elegant, more consciously beautiful. You pass a new market building constructed of brick and stone with large arched near the market. You notice a new coffee house being built in the latest London fashion. Coffee houses are becoming important centres of social and commercial life, where merchants and gentlemen can meet to discuss business and politics while enjoying the new beverage imported from the Arabian Peninsula. The coffee house will have large windows at street level so that passers-by can see the elegant interior and the fashionable people who gather there. The windows are fitted with the latest style of sash that slide up and down in wooden frames, creating larger openings for light and air. As the morning progresses, you make your way to the site where the new city hall will be constructed. The site is on what is now called Broad Street, near the old Dutch Canal, which has been filled in and converted to a regular street, paved with cobblestones. The building site has been carefully prepared, with excavations for the foundation already begun. The foundation will be built of local stone, laid in lime mortar that will cure slowly and harden to stone-like strength. The foundation walls will be thick enough to support the weight of 3 stories of brick and stone construction. You'll meet with the master mason, who will supervise the construction of the stonework. He is an Englishman recently arrived from Yorkshire, where he learned his trade working on country houses for the English gentry. His skills will ensure that the new city hall meets the highest standards of English craftsmanship. The mason shows you samples of the materials that will be used in the construction. The bricks are made from clay found on Long Island, but fired according to English techniques that produce a more uniform colour and texture. The mortar will be mixed with fine sand and lime, imported from England to ensure proper curing and strength. The stone for the decorative elements, windowsills and door surrounds and cornices will be imported from Connecticut quarries that produce a light grey sandstone that carves easily and weathers to a beautiful silver colour. This stone will provide the white accents that are essential to the Georgian style. As you discuss the construction details with the mason, you become aware of the sounds of the busy city around you. Horses' hooves clip-clop on cobblestones. Cartwheels rumble over uneven pavement, and voices call out in English and Dutch and other languages, brought by immigrants from many different countries. The harbour is filled with ships from England and the West Indies, bringing manufactured goods and taking away raw materials, flour and furs and lumber that represent the wealth of the American colonies. The masts of the ships create a forest of wood and rope that sways gently with the tide. You climb to the upper floor of a nearby building to get a better view of the harbour and the city as a whole. From this vantage point, you can see how the architectural transformation is proceeding street by street, block by block, as English influence gradually replaces Dutch traditions. The old Dutch houses, with their stepped gables and small windows, still dominate many streets, but they are being joined by new Georgian houses with their symmetrical facades and classical details. The contrast is not jarring, but rather creates a rich architectural tapestry that speaks of the city's complex history. You notice how the English buildings tend to be taller and more vertical than the Dutch houses, reflecting different approaches to urban living. The Dutch preferred to spread horizontally, creating wider, lower buildings that seemed to hug the earth. The English build upward, creating more imposing vertical compositions. The roof lines of the city show this difference clearly. Dutch houses have low-pitched roofs, often with stepped gables that create interesting silhouettes against the sky. English houses have steeper roofs with dormers and chimneys that create more complex and varied skylines. As afternoon approaches, you return to street level and walk toward the public district where the wealthier merchants and professionals are building new homes in the latest English style. These houses represent the most ambitious architectural projects in the city, and they demonstrate the growing sophistication of colonial society. You stop before a particularly impressive house belonging to a successful lawyer named James Alexander. The house is built of red brick laid in Flemish bond with white stone trim around all the openings. The proportions are perfectly Georgian, with 5 windows across the second floor, and a central entrance emphasized by a classical doorway. The front door is approached by a flight of stone steps that lift the entrance above street level, creating a sense of importance and dignity. The door itself is painted a rich dark green, and it is fitted with brass hardware imported from Birmingham, England. Above the front door, a Palladian window lights the main stairway inside. This window consists of a large, arched central section flanked by smaller rectangular windows, creating a composition that is both elegant and functional. The window is a signature element of the Georgian style, and its presence announces the building's architectural sophistication. The garden in front of the house is laid out with geometric precision. Box hedges create formal patterns filled with seasonal flowers. Tulips in spring, roses in summer, chrysanthemums in fall. The garden's design reflects English formal garden traditions adapted to the American climate and growing conditions. You are invited inside by Mrs. Alexander with gracious lady who takes pride in her beautiful home, with every detail carefully planned and executed by the finest craftsmen in the city. The entrance hall is paved with black and white marble tiles laid in a checkerboard pattern that creates a sense of elegance and formality. The walls are elegance and formality, panelled in mahogany, imported from the West Indies and polished to a deep, lustrous finish that glows in the candlelight. The main staircase rises in a graceful curve to the upper floors, its mahogany handrail supported by turned balusters that demonstrate the skill of local woodworkers who have learned to work in the English manner. Each baluster is slightly different from its neighbours, showing the hand of the craftsman who shaped it. In the main parlour, the walls are covered with Chinese wallpaper, imported at great cost. Expense showing scenes of exotic birds and flowering trees in soft colours of blue and gold and green. The wallpaper creates an atmosphere of luxury and sophistication that proclaims the family's prosperity and taste. The furniture in the parlour includes pieces made by local cabinet makers working in the English style, as well as some items imported directly from London. A beautiful secretary desk displays the family's collection of books and Chinese porcelain, behind glass doors that protect these valuable objects from dust. The dining room features a mahogany table that can seat 12 people surrounded by chairs, with upholstered seats covered in silk damask imported from France. The room is lit by a crystal chandelier whose faceted pendants cast rainbow patterns on the white plastered walls when candles are lighted. As evening approaches, you take your leave of the Alexander family and walk slowly back through the quiet streets toward your lodgings. The city is settling into its evening rhythm. Cooking fires are lit in kitchen hearths, and the smell of wood smoke mingles with the salt air from the harbour. Street lamps, fueled with whale oil, begin to flicker to life, creating pools of warm light along the main thoroughfares. The lamps are a recent innovation, representing the city's growing prosperity and its commitment to public improvements. You pass taverns where merchants and sea captains gather to discuss the news of the day and to conduct business over mugs of ale and glasses of rum punch. The taverns are built in the English style, with large common rooms, warmed by generous fireplaces and lit by candles in pewter sconces along the walls. The sound of voices and laughter drifts from the open tavern doors, creating a sense of community and fellowship that as you reach your lodgings, you pause to look back over the city. You are helping to transform. The lights in windows twinkle like earthbound stars, and the harbour reflects the last glow of sunset in its calm waters. The architectural transformation of New York, from Dutch New Amsterdam to English colonial city, represents more than just a change in building styles. It reflects the peaceful blending of cultures, the adaptation of old traditions to new circumstances, and the creation of something entirely new and uniquely American. You climb the stairs to your comfortable room and prepare for sleep, satisfied with the day's work and anticipating tomorrow's continued progress on the new City Hall. The building will stand as a symbol of English colonial authority, but it will be built by Dutch craftsmen and American materials, creating something that belongs entirely to this new world. Through your window, you can hear the gentle sounds of the harbour at night, water lapping against wooden piers, ropes creaking on anchored ships, and the distant call of a night watchman making his rounds through the peaceful streets. Your eyelids grow heavy as you listen to these soothing sounds, and you drift gradually into sleep, dreaming of elegant Georgian facades and graceful proportions and the quiet satisfaction of building something beautiful and lasting in this new and promising land. Sleep comes gently, like candlelight fading to darkness, and you rest peacefully in the embrace of a city that grows more beautiful. You awaken to the gentle sound of church bells ringing across the morning air of Lower Manhattan. The year is 1825, and you are Samuel Thompson, a master builder who has spent the last 30 years watching New York grow from a modest colonial port into one of the most important cities in the young American nation. From your window, in a comfortable federal-style house on Pearl Street, you can see the forest of masts. In South Street Seaport, where ships from around the world bring goods and passengers to America's busiest harbor, the morning light dances on the water like scattered silver coins, and seagulls wheel and call above the gentle waves. You dress in the careful manner of a successful craftsman, putting on a clean linen shirt, a wool waistcoat of deep blue, and the well-cut coat that marks you as a man of substance in this growing city. Your clothes are made by local tailors who have learned their craft from the finest European traditions, but adapted their skills to American tastes and materials. Downstairs in your breakfast room, your wife Mary has prepared a meal of fresh bread, sweet butter churned at a farm in Brooklyn, and coffee imported from the Caribbean islands. The coffee is ground fresh each morning in a wooden mill that sits on the windowsill, filling the room with its rich, aromatic fragrance. The breakfast room itself demonstrates the architectural evolution that has taken place since the colonial period. The walls are painted a soft yellow, the color of morning sunlight, and they are decorated with delicate plaster moldings that create elegant frames around the windows and doorway. The furniture reflects the new American style that has emerged in the decades following independence. Your dining chairs are made of mahogany by a local cabinet maker named Duncan Fife, whose workshop on Fulton Street produces some of the finest furniture in America. The chairs combine English craftsmanship with American innovations, creating pieces that are both beautiful and practical. As you enjoy your morning meal, you review the plans for your current project, the construction of a new merchant's warehouse on Front Street. The building will be 5 stories high, built of brick and stone in the federal style that has become the signature architecture of the new American Republic. The federal style represents a conscious departure from English colonial traditions, where Georgian buildings were heavy and formal. Federal buildings are lighter, more delicate, more expressive of American democratic ideals. The style draws inspiration from ancient Rome and Greece, the classical republics that inspired America's founding fathers. Your warehouse will feature a facade of red brick laid in Flemish bond, with white limestone trim around the windows and at the corners. The proportions will be more vertical than colonial buildings, reflecting the need to maximize storage space on expensive urban land, while creating an elegant appearance worthy of America's commercial capital. After breakfast, you walk through the bustling streets toward the building site. The city has grown dramatically in recent years, spreading north from the original Dutch settlement into areas that were farmland just decades ago. New streets are laid out in a regular grid that makes navigation easy and land development efficient. You pass the site of City Hall, completed just 15 years ago and considered one of the finest examples of federal architecture in America. The building rises from a base of brownstone to walls of white marble imported from Massachusetts quarries. Its proportions are perfectly classical, with a central portico supported by columns in the Ionic order. City Hall represents the confidence and aspirations of the new American nation. Its architecture speaks of democracy and equality rather than royal authority. The building is open and accessible to citizens, with wide steps leading to the main entrance and large windows that flood the interior with natural light. Near City Hall, you notice construction beginning. on a new church that will serve the growing Episcopal congregation. St. Paul's Chapel, built before the Revolution, is no longer large enough for the expanding population, and this new church will demonstrate the latest developments in American ecclesiastical architecture. The new church will be built in the Gothic Revival style that is becoming popular for religious architecture. Buildings. Gothic Revival represents a romantic reaction against the strict classicism of the Federal period, and it expresses a longing for the spiritual values associated with medieval Christianity. You pause to examine the foundation work that has already begun. The foundations are built of Manhattan schist, the bedrock that underlies the entire island. This stone is incredibly hard and durable, but it requires special tools and techniques to work with effectively. The master mason working on the project is an immigrant from Scotland who learned his trade working on the great cathedrals of Europe. He shows you how the Gothic architectural details will be carved from limestone imported from Indiana quarries that produce stone of exceptional quality and workability. Continuing your walk toward the warehouse site, you pass through a neighborhood of new townhouses built for the expanding middle class of merchants, lawyers, and doctors who prosper in America's growing commercial economy. These federal townhouses are typically 3 or 4 stories high, built of brick with elegant brownstone stoops that lift the main entrance above street level. The stoops have become a characteristic feature of New York architecture, creating semi-private spaces where neighbors can gather to talk and children can play safely. Each townhouse is narrow, usually only 20 or 25 feet wide, but they make efficient use of space, with rooms arranged in a vertical sequence that maximizes both privacy and functionality. The ground floor typically contains service areas. The parlor floor above holds the main reception rooms, and the upper floors provide bedrooms and nurseries. The facades of these houses demonstrate the restraint and elegance of federal design. Windows are arranged in perfect symmetry, with delicate stone lintels and sills that provide subtle decoration without overwhelming the overall composition. The front doors are often flanked by side lights and topped with semicircular fan lights that create graceful compositions while providing natural light for entrance halls. You stop to admire a particularly fine example of federal domestic architecture. A house belonging to John Jacob Astor, the fur trader, who has become one of the wealthiest men in America. Astor's house is larger than typical townhouses, and it demonstrates how the federal style can be adapted for grander residential purposes. The house is built of the finest materials. Red brick, imported from Philadelphia, white marble, trim from Connecticut quarries, and mahogany for the interior woodwork, brought from the Caribbean aboard Astor's own merchant ships. Every detail speaks of quality and refinement, from the hand-forged iron railings to the crystal window glass, imported from European manufacturers. The interior of the house, which you have had occasion to visit, represents the height of Federal period domestic design. The entrance hall features a graceful, elliptical staircase that curves upward to the upper floors, its mahogany handrail supported by delicate balusters turned on a lathe by skilled woodworkers. The main parlour has walls covered with hand-painted wallpaper imported from France, showing classical scenes of ancient Greek and Roman mythology. The paper is printed with extraordinary precision and coloured with pigments that glow like jewels in the soft light from the tall windows. The dining room contains Duncan Fife table that can expand to seat 20 guests for the elaborate dinner parties that are an important part of New York's social life. The table is surrounded by chairs upholstered in silk damask, woven in Lyon, France, and imported at considerable expense. As you continue toward your building site, you reflect on how the Federal style represents a uniquely American approach to architecture. Unlike colonial buildings, which simply transplanted European styles to American soil, Federal buildings express the ideals and aspirations of the new republic. The style draws inspiration from ancient classical sources, but interprets them through the lens of Enlightenment philosophy and democratic political theory. Federal buildings are lighter, more open, more optimistic than their colonial predecessors, reflecting the confidence of a young nation that believes in progress and improvement. You arrive at your building site on Front Street, where work is progressing steadily on the new warehouse. The foundation has been completed using stones quarried from the excavation itself, mixed with granite blocks brought down the Hudson River from quarries near Albany. The foundation walls are nearly 4 feet thick at the base, tapering to 3 feet at ground level. This massive construction is necessary to support the weight of 5 stories of brick walls, plus the heavy loads of goods that will be stored in the building. The foundation is built to last for centuries, like the great buildings of ancient Rome. Above ground, the brick walls are rising steadily, laid by master masons who learned their trade in the old country, but have adapted their skills to American conditions and materials. The bricks are made from clay found on Staten Island and fired in kilns that burn Pennsylvania coal, brought down the Delaware River in canal boats. Each brick is carefully selected and placed by hand, with mortar mixed from lime, sand, and water in proportions that have been perfected through generations of experience. The mortar joints are tools to a uniform profile that sheds water effectively while creating pleasing horizontal lines in the facade. The window openings are spanned by flat stone lintels cut from Connecticut brownstone that is easily worked but hardens. You climb a wooden ladder to the third floor to inspect the work in progress and to consult with the master carpenter who is installing the heavy timber framing that will support the floors. The timbers are cut from white oak trees that grew in the forests of upstate New York, and they are joined with traditional mortise and tenon joints secured with wooden pegs. The carpenter shows you how he calculates the loads that each beam must carry and how he selects timbers of appropriate size and strength for each. From the upper floors of the warehouse, you can see across the East River to Brooklyn, where similar construction projects are underway. Brooklyn is still a separate city, connected to Manhattan only by ferry service, but it is growing rapidly as merchants and craftsmen seek less expensive land for their homes and businesses. The view from the warehouse also encompasses the busy harbour where ships arrive daily from Europe, the Caribbean, and the American coastal cities. The harbour is filled with sailing vessels of every description, from small sloops that carry produce from Long Island farms to large merchant ships that trade with China and India. You notice that many of the ships in the harbour are built in New York shipyards located along the East River waterfront. Shipbuilding has become one of the city's most important industries, and New York ships are considered among the finest in the world for their speed, seaworthiness, and elegant design. The shipyards themselves represent another form of architecture, industrial buildings designed for maximum efficiency in the construction and repair of vessels. The main building ways are covered by long wooden sheds that protect workers and materials from weather, while providing the clear spans necessary for ship construction. As the morning progresses, you return to street level and walk among the workers, observing their techniques and offering suggestions when appropriate. The workforce on your warehouse includes craftsmen from many different backgrounds: Irish stonecutters, German carpenters, Scottish masons, and native-born Americans who have learned their trades through apprenticeship. The diversity of the workforce reflects the changing character of New York, which is rapidly becoming the most cosmopolitan city in America. Immigration is increasing every year as Europeans seek new opportunities in the growing American economy, and they bring with them skills and traditions that enrich the city's architectural development. You notice how the different craftsmen learn from each other, sharing techniques and innovations that improve the quality and efficiency of their work. An Irish stonecutter shows a German mason a new way of cutting joints that saves time and materials. A Scottish carpenter demonstrates a tool that improves the accuracy of measurements. This cross-pollination of ideas and techniques is creating a distinctive American approach to building that combines the best traditions from many different cultures. The result is buildings that are more innovative, more efficient, and often more beautiful than their European counterparts. As noon approaches, you join the workers for their midday meal, which they eat in the shade of the rising walls. The meal consists of bread, cheese, and ale, simple foods that provide the energy needed for physical labor. The workers eat with good appetite, and they talk quietly among themselves about their work, their families, and their hopes for the future. During the meal break, you discuss with the master mason the decorative stonework that will crown the building. The cornice will be carved from Indiana limestone in a pattern inspired by ancient Roman architecture, but simplified and refined to suit American tastes and the building's commercial function. The carving will be done by specialists who have studied classical architecture in books and engravings imported from Europe. These men understand not only the practical aspects of stone carving, but also the aesthetic principles that govern classical proportions and decorative details. After lunch, you walk to a nearby building where similar stonework has recently been completed to examine the quality of the carving and the weathering characteristics of the stone. The building is a branch office of the Bank of New York, and its facade demonstrates how classical architectural elements can be adapted for commercial purposes. The bank building is designed to inspire confidence in the institution's stability and integrity. Its facade features a temple front with Doric columns supporting a triangular pediment carved with symbols of commerce and prosperity. The overall effect is dignified and reassuring, exactly what depositors want to see in their bank. Inside the bank, the main banking hall is designed to impress visitors with the institution's importance and permanence. The ceiling is supported by columns with capitals carved in the Corinthian order, and the walls are lined with mahogany paneling that glows with the patina of fine craftsmanship. The banking hall is lit by a combination of natural light from tall windows and artificial light from oil lamps in brass fixtures that are both functional and decorative. The lamps are designed to provide adequate illumination for conducting business while creating an atmosphere of warmth and hospitality. Returning to your warehouse site, you spend the afternoon working with the carpenter to finalize the details of the interior construction. The building will have minimal interior partitions to maximize storage flexibility, but it will include a small office area where the warehouse manager can conduct business and keep records. The office will be fitted with built-in desks and storage cabinets made of pine, painted to resemble more expensive hardwoods. This technique, called graining, requires considerable skill, but it allows builders to achieve elegant effects at reasonable cost, making good design accessible to more people. The floors throughout the warehouse will be made of yellow pine planks cut from trees that grew in the middle. Forests of North Carolina. Yellow pine is chosen for its strength and durability, as well as its resistance to wear from heavy foot traffic and the movement of loaded carts and dollies. Each floor plank is carefully selected and graded to ensure uniform quality and appearance. The planks are laid over heavy floor joists spaced 16 inches apart, and they are secured with cut nails manufactured in Connecticut factories that use water power to operate their machinery. As evening approaches, you walk slowly back through the city toward your home, observing the changes that have taken place during just one day of construction. New buildings rise imperceptibly but steadily, and the city's skyline evolves constantly as old structures are modified and new ones are added. You pass the site of a new hotel being built to accommodate the increasing number of travelers who visit New York on business or pleasure. The hotel will be 4 stories high, with accommodations for over 100 guests, making it one of the largest hostelries in America. The hotel design reflects the latest thinking about hospitality and comfort. Each guest room will have its own fireplace for heating, and many will have washstands with running water supplied from rooftop cisterns. The public spaces will be elegantly furnished and decorated to create an atmosphere of luxury and refinement. Near your home, you notice that work has begun on widening Pearl Street to accommodate the increasing traffic of horses, carts, and pedestrians. The street improvement includes new sidewalks paved with flat stones and lined with iron posts connected by chains to separate pedestrian areas from vehicle traffic. The street lighting is also being improved with new whale oil lamps mounted on iron posts at regular intervals. In intervals, the lamps will be lit each evening by city employees, and they will provide much better illumination than the old system of requiring individual property owners to maintain lanterns outside their buildings. You arrive at your own home as the sun begins to set behind the hills of New Jersey, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose and purple. Your house is a comfortable federal townhouse that you built yourself 5 years ago using the finest materials and craftsmanship available. The house represents your own interpretation of the federal style, combining classical proportions with practical American innovations. The facade is built of red brick with white limestone trim, and the windows are larger than typical to take advantage of New York's abundant natural light. Inside, your wife, Mary, has prepared dinner, which you enjoy in the dining room overlooking your small back garden. The garden is planted with both ornamental and practical plants, roses and lilacs for beauty, herbs and vegetables for the kitchen table. A small greenhouse attached to the back of the house allows you to enjoy fresh flowers and vegetables even during the winter months. The dining room itself demonstrates your skill as a builder and your taste as a homeowner. The walls are covered with plaster, tinted a soft blue, and decorated with delicate moldings that you carved yourself during winter evenings. The ceiling features a simple but elegant medallion from which hangs a crystal chandelier that Mary inherited from her grandmother. After dinner, you and Mary sit in the front parlor reading by the light of whale oil lamps and enjoying the peace of evening. Through the windows, you can see your neighbors in their own houses, going about their evening routines, creating a sense of community and shared prosperity. The parlor is furnished with pieces made by local craftsmen working in the federal style. A Duncan Fife sofa upholstered in green silk provides comfortable seating, and a mahogany bookcase displays your collection of books on architecture, engineering, and other practical subjects. On the mantelpiece above the fireplace, Mary has arranged a collection of Chinese porcelain that reflects New York's growing trade with distant countries. Each piece was carried across the Pacific Ocean in the hold of an American merchant ship, and it represents the global connections that make New York one of the world's great commercial centers. As the evening progresses, you review the plans for tomorrow's work on the warehouse and discuss with Mary your hopes for future projects. The city is growing so rapidly that there will be work for skilled builders for many years to come, and you look forward to contributing to New York's continuing architectural development. You also discuss plans for improving your own home, perhaps adding a conservatory where Mary can pursue her interest in botany, or building a workshop in the basement where you can experiment with new construction techniques and train young men who want to learn the building trades. The conversation turns to the changes you have witnessed in New York during your 30 years as a builder. The city has grown from a provincial colonial port to a major American metropolis, and its architecture has evolved to reflect the confidence and prosperity of the young nation. The federal style that now dominates new construction represents a uniquely American approach to building that combines the best of European traditions with innovations suited to American conditions and democratic ideals. The style is elegant but not ostentatious, practical but not plain, expressing the values of a society that believes in progress, equality, and the pursuit of happiness. As the hour grows late, you and Mary prepare for bed, climbing the graceful staircase to your bedroom on the second floor. The bedroom is simply but comfortably furnished with a four-poster bed made of mahogany and hung with curtains of blue silk that Mary embroidered herself with flowers and birds. Through the bedroom windows, you can see the lights of the city twinkling in the darkness, each one representing a family safe and comfortable in their federal-style home. The sight fills you with satisfaction and pride in the work you have done to help build this great city. You listen to the gentle sounds of the night, water lapping against the piers in the harbour, the distant clip-clop of horses on cobblestones, the soft murmur of voices from neighbouring houses. These sounds create a peaceful urban lullaby that speaks of prosperity, security, and community. Your breathing grows slower and deeper as you reflect on the day's accomplishments and anticipate tomorrow's challenges. The warehouse will continue to rise, brick by brick, floor by floor, until it stands complete as another contribution to New York's growing architectural heritage. Sleep comes gently, like morning mist, rising from the harbour, and you rest peacefully, knowing that your work helps to create wonderfully. The physical foundation for the dreams and aspirations of countless Americans who come to this great city seeking opportunity and freedom. Your dreams are filled with visions of elegant federal facades, graceful proportions, and the quiet satisfaction of work well done in service of a young nation's boundless hope for the future. You find yourself gently awakening in a sun-filled conservatory overlooking Central Park on a crisp October morning in the year 1875. You are Eleanor Whitman, a prominent New York socialite and patron of the arts, who has devoted her life to promoting beautiful architecture in America's greatest city. The conservatory where you take your morning tea is attached to your magnificent brownstone mansion on Fifth Avenue, and it represents the latest in Victorian domestic luxury. Glass walls rise 15 feet to a vaulted ceiling that follows the curve of iron ribs, painted white and decorated with delicate cast iron ornaments in floral patterns. Exotic plants from around the world fill the conservatory with tropical fragrances and create a garden paradise in the heart of the city. Tree ferns from New Zealand spread their delicate fronds like green parasols, while orchids from South America bloom in impossible colours, purple and gold and deep burgundy. The morning light filters through the glass, creating patterns of sunshine and shadow that dance across the marble floor as clouds drift across the autumn sky. The floor itself is made of white Carrara marble, imported from Italy and inlaid with geometric patterns in green Vermont marble that echo the natural forms of the plants around you. You sip your tea from a delicate spode china cup, decorated with hand-painted roses, and reflect on the extraordinary transformation that has taken place in New York during your lifetime. When you were born in 1835, the city barely extended north of 14th Street, and most buildings were still built in the simple federal style of the early Republic. Now in 1875, the city stretches north. Beyond 60th Street and magnificent mansions line Fifth Avenue from Washington Square to the brand new Central Park. The architecture has evolved from federal simplicity to Victorian exuberance, reflecting the growing wealth and sophistication of American society. Your own mansion, designed by the famous architect Richard Morris Hunt, exemplifies the high Victorian style that has become fashionable among New York's elite. The building is constructed of brown sandstone quarried in Connecticut and carved with elaborate decorative details that demonstrate the skill of immigrant craftsmen from Italy and Germany. The facade of the house is asymmetrical, breaking away from the rigid symmetry of earlier architectural styles. The entrance to the mansion is emphasized by a massive stone arch carved with intricate foliate patterns that seem to grow from the stone itself. The heavy oak doors are fitted with stained glass panels that cast colourful reflections on the marble floor of the entrance hall when sunlight streams through them. Above the entrance, a large oriel window provides light for the grand staircase inside, while creating an impressive focal point on the exterior. As you finish your tea, you decide to spend the morning visiting some of the new architectural projects that are transforming the city. Your carriage waits outside, driven by Thomas, your Irish coachman, who has been with your family for 20 years and knows every street and shortcut in Manhattan. The carriage itself is a work of art built by Brewster and Company, the finest carriage makers in America. The body is painted dark blue with gold trim, and the interior is upholstered in soft leather, the color of cafe au lait. The springs and suspension provide a smooth ride, even over the cobblestone streets of Lower Manhattan. As you travel north along Fifth Avenue, you pass dozens of new mansions, each one different from its neighbors, yet all sharing the exuberant spirit of the Victorian age. The Astors are building a chateau-style mansion inspired by French Renaissance architecture, while the Vanderbilts have chosen a more classical approach based on Italian palazzo design. Each mansion represents not only the wealth of its owner, but also their individual taste and personality. Victorian architecture celebrates individuality and personal expression in a way that earlier styles did not. Where federal buildings sought to express democratic equality, Victorian buildings proclaim their owners' unique character and achievements. You direct Thomas to stop at the construction site of the new Museum of Natural History, which is rising on the west side of Central Park. The museum represents a new type of building in America, a public institution dedicated to education and the advancement of knowledge. The architect Calvert Vall has designed the museum in the Romanesque Revival style with massive stone walls punctuated by round arched windows and doorways. The style suggests permanence and dignity, appropriate for an institution that will preserve and display the wonders of the natural world for future generations. The building materials demonstrate the technological advances that have revolutionized construction in recent decades. The walls are built of Manhattan schist, quarried from the excavation for Central Park. But the structural framework is made of iron and steel, allowing for larger interior spaces than would be possible with traditional masonry construction. The museum's roof is supported by iron trusses, manufactured in Pittsburgh and shipped to New York by railroad. These trusses span distances of over 100 feet without intermediate supports, creating vast exhibition halls where whale skeletons and dinosaur fossils can be displayed to maximum advantage. Inside the museum, you observe the installation of display cases made of mahogany and brass with glass panels, manufactured by the latest techniques that produce large sheets of clear, perfectly flat glass. The cases are designed to protect valuable specimens while allowing visitors to examine them closely. The interior decoration of the museum reflects Victorian principles of design education. The walls are painted in colors that complement the natural specimens on display. Earth tones and forest greens that create a harmonious background for scientific exhibits. Decorative elements throughout the building incorporate natural motifs. Carved stone capitals feature leaves and flowers from different continents, while stained glass windows show scenes of animals in their natural habitats. The decoration serves not only an aesthetic purpose, but also an educational one, reinforcing the museum's mission to teach visitors about the natural world. Leaving the museum, you direct Thomas to drive south towards the area known as Ladies' Mile, where new commercial buildings are, introducing innovative approaches to retail architecture. The department store has become a new building type, designed to make shopping a pleasant and luxurious experience. A.T. Stewart's new store occupies an entire city block and rises 6 stories above street level. The building is constructed with a cast iron facade that allows for large windows on every floor, flooding the interior with natural light. The cast iron is painted white and decorated with classical details that give the commercial building the dignity of a palace. The large windows display merchandise in elaborate arrangements that transform shopping into a form of entertainment. Silk dresses from Paris are displayed alongside porcelain from China and jewelry from London, creating vignettes that suggest sophisticated lifestyles and exotic travel. Inside the store, you observe how the architects have created a space that encourages leisurely browsing and impulse purchases. Wide aisles are lined with mahogany display cases topped with marble and fitted with gas lighting that makes merchandise sparkle and gleam. The store includes amenities that were unheard of in earlier commercial buildings. A ladies' restaurant on the top floor allows shoppers to refresh themselves without leaving the building, while a reading room provides a quiet space where husbands can wait while their wives shop. The technical innovations in the building include a passenger elevator operated by steam power that carries customers between floors without the fatigue of climbing stairs. The elevator car is fitted with mirrors and upholstered seating, making the vertical journey part of the shopping experience. Continuing your architectural tour, you visit the construction site of Trinity Church's new, a parish house where the architect Richard Upjohn is demonstrating how the Gothic Revival style can be adapted for modern institutional needs. The building will provide meeting rooms, classrooms, and offices for the church's expanding social and educational programs. The parish house is built of brownstone to harmonize with the church itself, but the architectural details are more elaborate and decorative than earlier Gothic Revival buildings. Windows are filled with stained glass showing scenes from church history, while doorways are framed by carved stone arches decorated with foliate and geometric patterns. The building's interior spaces demonstrate how Victorian architects have learned to combine medieval stylistic elements with modern comfort and convenience. The main meeting hall has a high vaulted ceiling supported by decorative iron trusses that are both structural and ornamental. Heating is provided by a hot water system that circulates warm water through iron radiators concealed behind decorative screens. Gas lighting supplements natural light from the large windows, and the fixtures are designed to look like medieval torches, maintaining the Gothic atmosphere while providing modern illumination. As midday approaches, you decide to visit the construction site of there. Thomas drives you down to the East River waterfront, where the massive stone towers of the bridge are rising like Gothic cathedrals from the water. Each tower is built of granite blocks quarried in Maine and assembled with precision that rivals the finest medieval masonry. The architect John Roebling and his son Washington have designed the towers in the Gothic Revival style with pointed arches that serve both structural and aesthetic purposes. The arches reduce the weight of the towers while creating openings that allow wind to pass through, reducing the lateral forces that the bridge must resist. You observe the construction process from a safe distance, marveling at the courage of the workers who labour hundreds of feet above the river surface. The workers include Irish and German immigrants who brought skills learned in the construction of European cathedrals and bridges to this ambitious American project. The bridge's suspension cables are being spun from thousands of individual steel ends. Wires, manufactured in Sheffield, England, using the latest metallurgical techniques. Each wire is drawn to precise specifications and tested for strength before being incorporated into the massive cables that will support the bridge deck. The engineering principles behind the bridge represent the marriage of scientific calculation with artistic vision that characterizes the best Victorian architecture. Every element of the design serves both structural and aesthetic purposes, creating a monument that is both beautiful and functional. From the bridge construction site, you direct Thomas to drive north toward the area around Washington Square, where a new type of residential architecture is emerging. Row houses, designed for the growing middle class, demonstrate how Victorian principles can be applied to more modest domestic buildings. These row houses are typically 3 or 4 stories high, built of brownstone or brick, with decorative details that individualize each house, while maintaining overall harmony. With its neighbors, bay windows project from the main facade, creating additional interior space and visual interest. The entrance to each house is emphasized by elaborate stonework, carved brackets, support projecting, cornices, while door surrounds feature columns or pilasters with decorative capitals. The front doors themselves are often made of walnut or mahogany, with stained glass panels that create welcoming focal points. Inside these row houses, the floor plans reflect changing ideas about family, life, and domestic comfort. The parlor floor includes both formal and informal reception rooms, allowing families to maintain social distinctions while also enjoying more relaxed domestic arrangements. The dining rooms in these houses are often connected to butlers' pantries that facilitate formal service while keeping the kitchen work separate from social areas. The pantries are fitted with built-in storage for china and silver, and they include serving windows that allow food to be passed from the kitchen without requiring servants to enter the dining room. Upstairs, the bedrooms are arranged to provide privacy for different family members, with separate rooms for parents, children, and guests. Master bedrooms often include small dressing rooms and private bathrooms with the latest plumbing fixtures, including porcelain bathtubs and flush toilets. The decoration of these middle-class homes reflects Victorian ideals about the importance of beauty. In daily life, wallpapers in rich patterns and colours cover the walls, while carpets in floral and geometric designs warm the floors. Gas chandeliers provide artificial lighting that is both functional and decorative. As the afternoon progresses, you visit one more architectural project before returning home. The new Metropolitan Opera House, under construction on Broadway, represents the highest aspirations of New York's cultural elite, and it will provide a magnificent setting for grand opera and other musical performances. The Opera House is designed in the Second Empire style, popular in Paris during the reign of Napoleon III. The building features a mansard roof covered with slate tiles and punctuated by dormer windows that provide light for the upper floors. The facade is built of Indiana limestone, carved with elaborate decorative details. The entrance to the Opera House is designed to accommodate the elaborate social rituals associated with attending the opera. A large vestibule provides space for patrons to gather and see and be seen, while a grand staircase allows for impressive entrances and exits. The auditorium itself is designed according to the latest acoustic principles, with a horseshoe-shaped plan that ensures excellent sightlines and sound quality from every seat. The interior decoration includes elaborate plasterwork painted in gold and burgundy, and crystal chandeliers that create an atmosphere of luxury and refinement. The stage area is equipped with the most advanced theatrical machinery available, including fly galleries for raising and lowering scenery, and trapdoors that allow for dramatic entrances and exits. The stage lighting will use the latest gas technology to create theatrical effects that enhance the operatic performances. As evening approaches, you return to your Fifth Avenue mansion, feeling satisfied. With your day of architectural exploration, the city is changing rapidly, and you take pleasure in observing and encouraging the finest examples of contemporary design and construction. At home, you dress for dinner in your private suite on the second floor of the mansion. The suite includes a bedroom, dressing room, and private bathroom, all decorated in the latest Victorian style. The walls are covered with silk wallpaper in a William Morris pattern, showing stylized flowers and birds in soft greens and golds. The bathroom represents the height of modern luxury, with a porcelain bathtub imported from England and fitted with silver-plated faucets that provide both hot and cold running water. The water is heated by a coal-fired boiler in the basement and circulated through the house by a system of pipes hidden within the walls. For dinner, you join your husband, Charles, in the formal dining room on the parlour floor. The room is illuminated by a crystal chandelier suspended from an elaborate plaster ceiling medallion, and the walls are panelled in dark walnut, carved with intricate patterns of vines and flowers. The dining table is set with your finest china, a Haviland service imported from Limoges, France, and decorated with hand-painted roses. The crystal glasses are from Baccarat, and they sparkle like diamonds in the gaslight. Sterling silver flatware, made by Tiffany and Company, completes the elegant table setting. The dinner consists of multiple courses prepared by your French chef and served by footmen in livery. The menu includes oysters from Long Island Sound, soup made from vegetables grown on your Long Island estate, fish from the Hudson River, and beef from cattle raised on western ranches and transported to New York by railroad. During dinner, you and Charles discuss the architectural projects you observed during the day, and you share your enthusiasm for the way the city continues to evolve and improve. Charles, who made his fortune in the railroad business, appreciates your interest in architecture, and he supports your philanthropic efforts to promote good design in public buildings. After dinner, you retire to the library, where a fire burns warmly in the marble fireplace. The library contains over 3,000 volumes, bound in leather and arranged on shelves that reach from floor to ceiling. A rolling ladder provides access to the highest shelves, and reading tables with green glass lamps provide comfortable spots for studying. You select a book about garden design by Andrew Jackson Downing and settle into a comfortable chair upholstered in Morocco leather. The book contains beautiful illustrations of landscape plans and architectural details that inspire ideas for improving your own country estate in the Hudson Valley. As you read, can hear the gentle sounds of the city. Evening horses' hooves on pavement, the distant whistle of a steam locomotive arriving at Grand Central Depot, and the soft murmur of voices from neighbouring mansions. These sounds create a peaceful urban symphony that speaks of prosperity, security, and civilized comfort. The gas lamps in the library burn with steady golden flames that cast warm light on the rich mahogany woodwork and create an atmosphere of scholarly contemplation. The flames are enclosed in frosted glass globes that diffuse the light evenly throughout the room. As the hour grows late, you close your book and prepare to retire for the evening. You walk slowly up the grand staircase, admiring the stained glass window on the landing that shows a medieval garden scene in jewel-like colours of blue and red and gold. Your bedroom is illuminated by soft lamplight that reveals the rich textures and colours of the Victorian decoration. With a silk coverlet in deep burgundy, and the windows are draped with velvet curtains that shut out the sounds and lights of the city. On your dressing table, perfume bottles in cut crystal catch the lamplight and cast tiny rainbows on the silk wallpaper. A silver brush and mirror set engraved with your initials reflects the care and attention to detail that characterizes every aspect of your beautifully appointed home. As you prepare for sleep, you reflect on the remarkable transformation that has taken place in New York during your lifetime. The city has grown from a modest port to a great metropolis that rivals London and Paris in its architectural sophistication and cultural achievements. The Victorian architecture that now dominates the city represents more than just a change in building styles. It reflects the confidence, prosperity, and cultural ambitions of American society in the decades following the Civil War. The buildings express optimism about the future and faith in progress, technology, and human achievement. You slip beneath the silk sheets of your comfortable bed and sleep. Listen to the peaceful sounds of the autumn night. Somewhere in the distance, your eyelids grow heavy as you think about tomorrow's activities, perhaps a visit to your architect to discuss plans for the new conservatory, or a meeting with other civic-minded ladies to plan fundraising for the new public library. The soft sounds of the city at night fade into the gentle rhythm of your breathing, and you drift peacefully into sleep. Of your Victorian mansion, secure in the knowledge that you live in one of the beautiful and sophisticated cities in the world. Sleep comes like silk curtains drawing closed, and you rest deeply, dreaming of elaborate stone carvings, crystal chandeliers, and the endless possibilities for beauty and refinement that tomorrow will bring to your beloved New York. Your breathing grows deeper and slower as the Victorian splendor around you fades into the soft darkness of peaceful, restorative sleep, where dreams of architectural grandeur carry you gently through the quiet hours until morning light returns to illuminate once again the magnificent city that human hands and hearts and minds have built from stone and steel and infinite hope. The night embraces you softly like velvet curtains, and you sleep the deep, dreamless sleep of someone who has spent their day in contemplation of beauty and their life in service to the highest ideals of civilization and art.